channel is changing again. In the description you can see every way that it's changing and why I chose to change it. So today is a video essay about Jak and Daxter. We're going to talk about 5 things: production, the release, the aftermath, the legacy, and the future of the series. 5 topics in one video. One spooky video like this. Production of Jak and Daxter technically began in 1994. The games began in 1994 through an idea that was made basically into what Jak and Daxter The Lost Levels would later become. When this game was first releasing way back then, nobody expected it to do what it was going to do. The production of the first Jak and Daxter took 2 years. It took 2 years also for Jak 2, and it took a year and a half for Jak 3. Now, what did all 3 of these games have in common that almost nobody expected? It's the fact that it really took advantage of everything that was inside the PlayStation 2. It took advantage of the PlayStation 2 hardware and the PlayStation 1 hardware, which was inside the PlayStation 2. Nobody before them was doing that. Nobody thought that they could just tap in and create this wonderful world, this masterpiece that is Jak and Daxter. Jak and Daxter, though, did face several trials during its production period. During its production period, it almost looked like at times that it would not get released due to them using an engine that only one person on their team knew how to create. That one person had to solemnly do every single thing for the game except for the art and the animations, which would have led it to being a lot more maybe extravagant, maybe worse, had there been a large team that knew how to code for it. Nobody really knew what was going to happen with Jak and Daxter. Naughty Dog themselves at some points even had second thoughts on Jak and Daxter. They thought the series may not be working out, but upon release, all of that changed. Jak 2 was the first Jak and Daxter to have voice actors, and when they put voice actors in the game, that was a game changer. Players felt more connected to Jak. I mean, yes, there was voice actors in the first one, but the voice actors they had for the second one was a cast of rock stars. We had Jak's voice as Mike Irwin. We had the voice of Baron Praxis, which was also the voice of our boy, Krusty Krab manager, owner, Mr. Krabs, and so many other people that are legendary in the voice acting world. It was really quite impressive, the voice cast that they got for that. But now when we fast forward to Jak 3, the production of Jak 3 pretty much changed nothing except for how much the simplicity of the game would change. They added a bunch of mini games that changed the course of the series forever. In the end, by the time the production period was done, the games were huge and they were beautiful and they were amazing. But now what happened after the games released? When Jak and Daxter initially released, which it has been released 5 or 6 times at this point, it initially released to world records. There were multiple world records for this game all the way across the board. It was really quite crazy, all the records that this game was able to produce. Nobody thought it'd be possible for a little game console that could to create a game like this. It was the very first seamless open world experience, meaning there was no loading screens for anything in the game unless you wanted to fast travel, then there was a loading screen. But other than that, there was no loading screens, and it created several world records in video game that nobody ever expected. One of them, most noteworthy, was the first seamless open world game. Jak and Daxter also inspired several clones, such as Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper, who without Jak and Daxter would have never existed because these companies would have never known people like games such as this. With Jak and Daxter inspiring Sly Cooper and Ratchet and Clank, it has inspired countless numbers of games in the future and what will technically be our past if you're watching this. There has been Yooka-Laylee, there has been A Hat in Time, there has been so many games that were inspired by Jak and Daxter. But what was the aftermath of Jak? By the time everything was said and done in 2005 with the release of Jak X, what was the aftermath? The aftermath is a long-lasting curveball. You know, Jak 3 ended, and Jak 3 was supposed to be the conclusion to the series, but the way they ended it left so many doors open. It left so many serious plot holes. You know, when Jak went up in the precursor ship and he did his stuff and became the legendary Mar before they zapped him back down, how? How did that happen? What was going on? How was his journey to become Mar? And how did he get back in time? Did he go up and did he fight for them for years, become an old man, and then they zap him back down to young Jak and put him in Jak 3 all over again? Who knows? What happened after the conclusion with Gol and Maya? Did they come back like all the fan theories say? Did they or did they not? You know, there were so many things left unanswered in Jak and Daxter when they concluded it with Jak 3. There was so much they could have added, so much that should have been added. But alas, they said no way, Jose, and that was the end of the series, and they just left it. They left it on a curveball. Why would they do that? Well, the reason they did that is because one day Jak will return and Jak will be huge. Jak and Daxter is one of those games that without it, games like Uncharted and The Last of Us 2 would not exist. So that is part of the aftermath of Jak and Daxter. Not only that, but when they canceled Jak 4, fans are pretty upset, I'm not gonna lie. Legacy of Jak and Daxter's series, it's going to be known for at least another 100 years. It's been released up to 6 times at this point. It's been its initial release on PlayStation 2, it's had its greatest hits release, it's had its release on PlayStation 3, PlayStation Vita, and now PlayStation 5, and technically, if you want to get technical, it's been released a 6th time when they reprinted the game in 2007. Legacy of Jak and Daxter is one that is simply remarkable. There will probably never be a game to rival it as far as popularity and legacy goes, and as far as what it meant to gaming. This generation, if you're watching this in the future, the generation we're in right now are the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch era. This era has been going on since 2013, but there has been no memorable games come out on PlayStation or Xbox. The only memorable games have came out on the Nintendo Switch, and that's only been out for less than 10 months. So what is going to happen with this generation? What is this generation going to be known for? It's the generation that gaming died. I'm not saying that gaming is going to completely go away. Obviously it is not. But this generation, the developers and the publishers have tried to effectively kill gaming. You can look at Star Wars, and you can look at UFC, and you can look at all these other games. These publishers are trying to kill gaming. The legacy of Jak and Daxter will always be known as one of the last games to have a full story, cheat codes, unlockables, so many things you could never even imagine that it was not trapped behind a paywall. Even when they re-released it, it wasn't trapped behind a paywall. So the legacy of Jak and Daxter will live on forever in the hearts of many as that game that captivated the minds of everybody. Now, I'm an older person. My first game, the game that captured me into becoming a gamer, was Mario Kart and The Legend of Zelda on the NES, SNES, and Nintendo 64. Those are the first systems I played, but I do understand that a lot of you watching this video are a younger person, and you may be in your early teens, you may be in your late zeros, or maybe you might almost be my age but didn't start gaming until late. Jak and Daxter may have been the first gaming experience you had, and that's something that this generation will not be able to understand. There has been no games this generation that has captivated or will be remembered or celebrated like Jak and Daxter has. Uncharted, you cannot say anything about that because that game began on PlayStation 3. Nier, that series, you can't say anything about that because it began on PlayStation 3. Yakuza, same. And so many other games that have been released this year or this generation cannot be held at this generation because that series began on PlayStation 3. So if you're somebody that just started gaming right now, let's say you're 4 years old and Papa bought you a PlayStation 4 for Christmas, you don't have any games that will be rememberable. You don't have any games that will have a long-lasting legacy to play for. You don't have any of that stuff. Jak and Daxter was one of the last games to fully have that type of mentality, that type of fan base, and that type of legacy. Jak and Daxter will go down in history as one of the greatest games of all time on PlayStation. It will definitely go down in the top 3 PlayStation exclusives until PlayStation ultimately decides that they're done with exclusives and will branch out on every system, because let's talk about the future of the series, and that will explain why I did that. Future of the series, it's bright. It's really bright. So what is it going to be? Is it going to be something that we're all going to want to play when they re-release the games over and over and over? Is it going to be something that is eventually going to get a sequel? Or what's it going to do? Is it going to fade away into obscurity? Who knows what's going to happen? All I can say for sure is that Sony will be the first to end console exclusives. You know, they're already starting to make games on the Nintendo Switch, which that might not seem like a big deal since it's through Sony Music, but Sony Music is no different than Sony Entertainment, which is no different than Sony Cameras, and it's no different than anything. It's all the same company. So I do see Jak and Daxter re-releasing in the future on Xbox. I see it re-releasing on Nintendo. I see it re-releasing on whatever other console might be around at that time. Some of you may be thinking, well, that would never happen because that's kind of Sony's thing. But it's going to happen, and you gotta understand and accept that console exclusives are going to be a thing of the past one day. Console exclusives will no longer exist in the coming future. Just like the gaming industry is saying it's gonna go all digital, console exclusives are gonna go away as well. Everything that you know about gaming today will not be true in 10 years. In 10 years, you know, you might be playing Uncharted on your Nintendo Switch, you might be playing Halo on your PlayStation, and you might be playing Jak and Daxter on your Xbox, you know? The limits of what will happen is unknown. Where this series will be taken is also unknown. Where the series is going to be headed in the future when they come with future releases, that is most likely going to be the talk of the century until their next release of the game. Neil Druckmann has said in the past that he will not leave Naughty Dog until he gets a chance to redeem Jak and Daxter The Lost Frontier, which means that there will be a new Jak and Daxter game at some point. He will not abandon us like everyone else has. And if you can't see that with how he has pushed and pushed and pushed behind the scenes to get the Jak and Daxter re-released on the PlayStation 4, which re-released this week at the time this video is being recorded, then I don't know what to say. All I can say is the future of Jak is brighter than it has ever been. The future of the Jak and Daxter IP is better than it's ever been. Once they re-release these games in a couple years and they go onto Xbox and Nintendo, which they will, you know they will. You know console exclusives are going to slowly become a thing of the past. These games now cost $120, $200 million to make. They cannot make that money back on one console. Once the console exclusives are over, you're going to see PlayStation 2 classics, GameCube classics, original Xbox classics, Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1 classics releasing on your PlayStation 5s, your Xbox whatever, and whatever Nintendo's doing at that point. So it's really, at this point, it's going to be something that's going to be exciting. The future of gaming is crazy. It's really going to be crazy. But with that being said, this is in fact a video essay, which means this is just my personal beliefs. This is just how I view it, which also opens up a conversation. So let me know in the comments down below if you disagree. Let me know if you didn't enjoy this video. If you didn't enjoy it, maybe I'll get it right next time and you'll enjoy it. So with that being said, let me know in the comments down below. If you would like to be a part of this series and maybe help give ideas and tips for the future for what we're going to be doing about these video essays, go ahead and follow me on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. All will be linked in the description below. Or you can just simply hit that subscribe button on this YouTube channel and from time to time participate in comments when I ask you a question such as this discussion, what you think about what I said and what you see about the series, and maybe you want to hit on all the points I said as well. Maybe you want to add something to production, maybe you want to add something to release, aftermath, legacy, or the future of the series. Maybe, just maybe, you enjoyed this channel enough that you would like to see me live stream, which if you do, all the live streams will be on Twitch. So with that being said, Jak and Daxter has been a phenomenal series and it will continue being a phenomenal series. My name is CRUZANDO, try not to die, and I will see you in the next video.